Hi, my name's Robbie Samuels. I'm a virtual event design consultant and executive Zoom producer. I help national and statewide advocacy organizations strategically bring their events online with less stress and greater participant engagement. Today, I'm going to be going through my green room checklist. This is what happens right before the speaker goes online to give their presentation. Now, I do a pre-event speaker training with all the speakers where I run through a handout that I have, a several page long handout, and I share with them lots of videos so they can have the best practices and be as primed and ready as possible for this event. But right before they have their program start, about 15 minutes to 30 minutes beforehand, they meet me in the green room, and this is where we want to make sure that they look good and sound good, etc. So let's start with that. How do they sound? If they were using an external microphone during the pre-event tech check, is that the setting that they're on now? Because sometimes people don't have the right setting for their audio. Is their AV, like video part, look good as well? Are they cutting off their head or showing too much ceiling? Is the light in front of them instead of behind them? Are they properly framed, basically, and well lit? That's really important. And then we also want to talk to them about looking at the camera and, reminding them that that's how they connect and engage with their audience, that that's not going to work if they're staring at their notes or looking at participants instead of looking at the camera. I want to remind them that even when they're sharing their slides, they're still on camera. Participants can still see them, so they still need to make an effort to be looking at the camera as often as possible. I also need to make them a co-host, and I will ask them to open up their chat window, open up their participant window. I'm going to remind them that it's their responsibility to hit mute all if they're hearing some background noise. Rather than say something about it, they can just reach over the bottom of the participant window and click mute all. Of course, I'll be doing my best to manage that as well as the Zoom producer, but I want them to feel empowered to take care of that. I want to also remind them to use raised hand function instead of inviting participants to go ahead and unmute. I never want to hear them say, go ahead and unmute. Again, I want to give them that tool, but I also want to make sure they know where it is. Right now, it's in it's in the reactions button is the raised hand feature. But if you haven't updated your Zoom and some of your participants maybe haven't, then it's still at the bottom of the participant window. So I think the presenter needs to know that it could be one of those two places. I also want to remind them that as a co-host, they can't participate in the poll, and then I will launch the poll for them. And when they want me to, I will share the results. And when they're done, I will close the poll. I also don't want them to let anyone in from the waiting room. I will manage the waiting room. I will close the waiting room and admit all when we are ready to go. And I also don't want them to remove people from the meeting. I've had co-hosts think they were being helpful at the end of a meeting by hitting remove. But if you hit remove, then that participant can't come back into that link, and the link might be something we're using throughout a day. So I will move people to the waiting room if we need to have some privacy at the end of a session and have a final check-in about how things went, a quick debrief. I also want them to test their ability to share their screen, and I want to make sure that their PowerPoint slides or Google Slides or Keynote or whatever they're using is set up so they can easily move between their slides and their camera. So this could mean setting it up to play, quote, in window, or if they want to have two monitors and it go full screen on one monitor, that they have arranged their notes on the monitor in front of them to be as close and up and underneath their camera as possible, whether it's a separate document they're using for notes or whether it's the presenter mode for PowerPoint, because that's one way to be able to glance down and then glance back up. And the last thing I want to mention to them is that because they're co-hosts, they have the ability to record. And I find it useful, best practice is to have them hit record as a backup just in case. I will also be recording as a Zoom producer, but it's good for them to have a copy just in case. And some of them want that copy for their own records. Now, this is different a little bit than Zoom Webinar, but a lot of these same checklist items would be used for Zoom Webinar panelists. So if you want to get ready for your own green room checklist, just go through this, make your own list, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you soon.